Hi there, meteorologist Ed Valley here, taking a very quick look at the long range. We're going to have a full video tomorrow when we have our 16 to 30 day update. We're going to talk a little bit about that here today, um, but more so tomorrow. You see that the weather is very quiet. I'm not going to waste everybody's time. It's a very quiet pattern. It will continue to be so through the weekend and into early next week. Our next risk from anything meaningful comes midweek. Okay, so let's talk about it. Again, the only thing to talk about today really through the weekend is the increasing temperatures. Today, you see these blue lines, that's cooler. The red lines come in here for the weekend with minimal risk for precipitation right through Sunday. Total precip through Sunday night looks like this. A whole bunch of nothing. That's good news, right? It's been a while since we've been this dry. So hopefully you can get stuff pretty much done here this week if you haven't already. Now, as we move into the middle of the week next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, a couple showers possible Tuesday, not a huge deal. That'll move through Tuesday night across the region. Now, bigger storm possible Wednesday, Thursday here. Now, the models are very different. The the GFS I'm showing you here has a storm here Wednesday night into Thursday. Decent amount of precip, but nothing incredible. Now, the European model, dry through the week, or the weekend, no issues. Dry through Monday. You see that little itty bitty piece of energy moving through Monday, Tuesday with a few showers north, not a big deal. However, this run is a little bit different. It's disjointed. It has two systems. They don't really come together like the GFS does. System number one, system number two. These need to come together and be timed a little bit slower or faster, depending in order to get a bigger storm. You see that this front disturbance stays out ahead, moves through the eastern belt Thursday, and then the secondary system Thursday into Friday brings some rain and snow to the north. But it's not a succinct system. It's kind of disjointed. It's not nearly as organized as the GFS. So still some concerns as to exactly how that works out. Total precip through next week, you can see it's a lot different. Let me show you what the GFS has here. You'll notice exactly what I mean. So you see it's a 1/4 to 1 inch in the Midwest and Plains. It's a 1/2 to 2 inches in the Eastern Belt. But you look at the European, it has the 1/2 to 2 inches in the Eastern Belt, but there's a I-80 kind of void area of nothing with more to the north. So there's still a lot to figure out, but the idea of this pattern getting not only warmer next week, but also eventually wetter here, I think makes a lot of sense. So temperatures, still chilly today, 40s and 50s, but notice those 60s coming up back to the plains. The 70s return Friday, and then over the weekend, 60s likely pretty much everywhere except for far north. 80s in parts of the southern plains briefly. But Monday, you see the cold starting to come back, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then towards the end of the week, like I said, that's when we really start to return towards colder conditions. You see the 13th, 14th that weekend, 30s and 40s north, 50s and 60s south. And obviously you can imagine that would come with colder overnight lows as well. So it's kind of an up and down pattern. So let's kind of look at this from a bigger lens and talk about it just briefly. So again, today we have this trough, the cold air east, warmer west, and over time, the warmth spreads across the U.S. this weekend and early next week. Now, you notice by the middle and end of the week, you get another disturbance, that system mid to late week. That'll bring more cooler air in. And by day 10, you notice there's a nice trough in the central and eastern U.S. by day 10. And then by day 12, you see the high latitude blocking starting to blossom here. You see this right across the northern interior. You got a ridge in the west. You got a ridge trying to develop here near Greenland. That's a cold signal for sure. Day 15, still there. GFS, similar. High latitude blocking, trough in the central and eastern U.S. What does that look like? Well, it brings colder air into the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, the Southeast, parts of the Northeast as well. And you notice here on the European, it's a little focused further west. So there's some intricacies here that we need to figure out, but the idea of a colder pattern developing into the middle of the month, I think makes a lot of sense. And then as we look at precipitation here, you can see it's a wetter pattern developing here in the 8 to 14 day, and that's pretty unanimous as well. Now, it's interesting because if you look at the 10 to 15 day, you can actually see some drier risk starting to move back in. So the precipitation is going to be up and down. Next week, later in the week is wetter, But as we turn colder, it's very possible we start to dry out a little bit towards the 10 to 15 day. So a pretty up and down pattern. Real quick look at our 8 to 14 day analogs. You see it's colder risk. Here's the United States here with that blocking. Like we said, it's kind of a ring, across the higher latitudes. And then what we did was we rolled these dates here forward from the day 11 to day 17. And here's what you get. Notice it starts to warm back up a little bit. So for us, we're a little hesitant to say that it's a purely cold pattern forever, but it's certainly going to be a colder trend next week. But there might be some ups and downs here as we head into the back third of November and even into the first few days of December. Speaking of, we'll have a 16 to 30 day outlook out tomorrow that will detail the back half of November and the first week of December, if you can believe it. So that's what we got for you today. Have a great Thursday, and we'll be back here tomorrow with another video.